In a fiery dissent, federal judge Kenneth Lee slammed California's controversial congressional redistricting map, calling it a case of racial gerrymandering. This is not just a legal dispute, it's a political bombshell. Why? Because this redrawing of district lines could shift the balance of power in Washington, giving Democrats an edge by targeting Republican strongholds. But it's the racial motivations behind these decisions that have caught the judge's attention. He didn't just criticize, he exposed a political game designed to expand Democratic seats while seemingly violating the Voting Rights Act. California's political leaders, including Governor Gavin Newsom, defended the map, claiming it was an antidote to Texas's Republican-driven redistricting. But as Judge Lee points out, this isn't just about partisan politics. It's about race, power, and the manipulation of district lines to serve a political agenda. Where does this leave us? Stay with me as we dive deeper into this explosive controversy. But first, let's set the stage by looking at the historical context behind this case. To understand the significance of California's redistricting, we need to look back at the broader history of district map drawing. Redistricting isn't just a matter of drawing lines on a map. It's a political process that shapes the very foundation of how power is distributed in government. Every 10 years, states across the country redraw their districts based on the latest census data. But this process has always been a battleground. In the past, both parties have been accused of drawing lines to favor their own interests. The most famous example? Gerrymandering, when district boundaries are manipulated to ensure a particular party's dominance. But what makes California's case different is the explicit involvement of race. After the 2018 elections, California's Democratic leaders saw an opportunity: redraw the map to create more Latino majority districts and flip more seats to the Democrats. And that's exactly what happened. But was this move justifiable, or was it an overstep? Now that we understand the context, let's explore the mechanics behind this redistricting plan and why some see it as a racial issue. So how exactly did California's new congressional map come to be, and what makes it so controversial? The answer lies in the intricacies of how districts were drawn. Under Proposition 50, California sought to redraw its districts to favor Democrats by creating more Latino majority districts. The theory was that this would help increase representation for Latino voters, a significant part of the state's electorate. But here's where it gets sticky. According to Judge Lee, this process didn't just account for demographic needs, it deliberately used race as a tool to ensure political outcomes. Paul Mitchell, the map maker behind the plan, openly boasted about using racial demographics to carve out these districts, aiming to secure Democratic victories. The idea was to neutralize Republican strongholds, particularly in areas with large Latino populations. But was this racial consideration a step too far? And did it go against the Voting Rights Act? This raises the question: was it all for fair representation, or a strategic move to manipulate power? To get a clearer picture, let's now take a closer look at the consequences of this move and the first crisis it triggered. The ripple effects of California's redistricting plan didn't take long to surface. As soon as the map was approved, Republicans jumped into action, accusing California's Democratic leaders of manipulating the system for political gain. They didn't just raise concerns, they launched a legal battle. In a move that escalated the tensions, Republican leaders argued that the map violated the Voting Rights Act by using race as a primary factor in drawing districts, particularly in the heavily Latino areas. But the fight wasn't over. Judge Lee's fiery dissent brought everything to a head. He didn't mince words, condemning the map as a blatant case of racial gerrymandering. His words echoed across the legal and political arenas, adding fuel to the already intense debate. This crisis wasn't just about partisan bickering. It was about the very integrity of the electoral system. The map may have passed in court, but the legal battle was far from over. California Republicans vowed to escalate the case to the U.S. Supreme Court, determined to stop the map in its tracks. This is just the beginning. What does this legal fight mean for the future of California's elections? Stay tuned. Now let's dig deeper into the mechanisms behind this racial manipulation and see the core of what's at stake. To understand the true gravity of California's redistricting plan, we need to look beyond the surface and uncover the hidden mechanisms at play. At its core, this isn't just about political strategy. It's about race being used as a tool for power. Paul Mitchell, the mapmaker, admitted that his primary goal was to create Latino-majority districts, which would likely vote Democratic. This isn't an innocent demographic shift. It's a calculated effort to change the political balance in favor of one party. The court may have upheld the map, but Judge Lee's dissent raised a critical point. Race was the primary motivator in drawing at least one district. The question isn't whether Latino representation is needed. It is. But rather, was it appropriate for the state to draw these lines with race as the central factor? Critics argue that by prioritizing race over traditional districting principles, California opened the door for racial gerrymandering. It's a slippery slope. When race becomes the driving force in shaping political power, the very essence of fair representation is called into question. As we move forward, we can't ignore the emotional impact this decision had on the people it affects most. Let's look at how this controversy rippled through the population. As the legal battles rage on, the human impact of California's redistricting plan cannot be ignored. For many, this controversy is more than just a political or legal issue. It's deeply personal. Latino voters in California, who have long struggled for adequate representation, were told that this map was a step forward. But the emotional fallout came swiftly. To some, the plan felt like a betrayal, not just of their political beliefs, but of their identity. Judge Lee's dissent brought this into sharp focus, highlighting the tension between fair representation and the potential manipulation of race for political gain. This is where the crisis deepens. Politicians and voters alike are forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that their voices may have been part of a political chess game. For Democrats, it's a fight for more seats, but for Republicans, it's a fight for fairness. Meanwhile, everyday voters are left wondering if their votes are truly their own, or if they're simply pawns in a larger political strategy. In the face of this, emotions run high, and trust in the system starts to erode. What does this mean for your vote? The answer may surprise you. Stay with me as we dive deeper into the global implications of this redistricting strategy. Now that we've seen how this affects the citizens, let's zoom out and understand how this fits into the global stage. For the average citizen, this case isn't just a battle between Democrats and Republicans. It's about their voice in the political process. California's redistricting wasn't just a technical exercise. It's a direct reflection of the growing divide in American politics. What Judge Lee's dissent made crystal clear is that voters may no longer have the power to decide who represents them, but instead, a system designed to manipulate district boundaries to favor one side. As a result, Latino communities in California could find themselves in a district drawn for political gain rather than genuine representation. And for those on the other side of the political spectrum, Republicans see this as an outright injustice. But beyond party lines, the real question is, do we trust a system that seems to prioritize power over the will of the people? When redistricting becomes just another way to secure an outcome, how can any voter, regardless of their party, be sure their voice truly counts? The impact here goes beyond the map. It goes to the core of democracy itself. Does this sound like a future you want for your country? Share your thoughts and stay tuned for a look at the global implications. Now that we've seen how this affects the citizens, let's zoom out and understand how this fits into the global stage. The global impact, geopolitical ramifications. While California's redistricting battle may seem like a localized issue, its ripples extend far beyond the borders of the state. The implications are global, particularly in how it influences international perceptions of the United States' democratic processes. Countries around the world watch closely as the U.S. grapples with questions of fairness, racial representation, and electoral integrity. When the Democratic-led California legislature is accused of racial gerrymandering, it sends a powerful message. Even in a democracy that prides itself on being a model for the world, political manipulation is a real concern. On a broader level, the global community is looking at how the U.S. balances partisan interests with genuine voter representation. If California succeeds in expanding Democratic seats through this controversial map, it could inspire similar tactics elsewhere, leading to a wave of partisan redistricting around the world. The very essence of representative democracy, which is meant to reflect the will of the people, could be undermined by these practices, putting democratic principles in jeopardy not just at home, but across the globe. Now that we've explored the international implications, let's look ahead. What does the future hold for California and the country at large? So, where does this leave us? The future of California's redistricting, and potentially the entire U.S. political landscape, depends on which path the courts, voters, and lawmakers choose to take. Let's break down the three potential scenarios. Scenario 1, the best-case scenario. In this scenario, California's plan stands. More Latino-majority districts are created, ensuring better representation for an underrepresented group. The courts affirm this move as part of the broader effort to balance power and ensure fairness. While some critics may continue to argue that it's racial gerrymandering, the general belief is that California is simply correcting historical wrongs. Scenario 2, the middle road. The U.S. Supreme Court steps in and delivers a compromise. It acknowledges the need for better Latino representation, but warns against using race as the predominant factor in drawing districts. A more balanced approach is implemented, and future redistricting efforts are scrutinized to prevent abuses. Scenario 3, the worst-case scenario. The plan is overturned, and the backlash against California's Democratic leadership grows. Republicans regain control over key districts, creating a political arms race where both parties continuously redraw lines to maintain dominance. Trust in the system diminishes, and political polarization deepens, leaving voters disillusioned. Whatever happens, the fight for California's redistricting plan is far from over. Let's take a look at how this plays into the next crucial chapter. California's redistricting case is more than just a political or legal fight. It's a wake-up call for the future of American democracy. It raises uncomfortable questions about the intersection of race, partisanship, and the integrity of our electoral system. What happens in California could set a dangerous precedent, one that other states could follow, further distorting the will of the people for partisan gain. But the story isn't over yet. With the Supreme Court likely to weigh in, the outcome will have far-reaching consequences, not just for California, but for the entire nation. The questions we face now about how we balance fairness with representation, about how we preserve the integrity of our elections, will define the future of American democracy. Democracy isn't just about winning elections. It's about ensuring that every vote counts and every voice is heard. The real battle, however, is yet to come. This case may be decided in the courts, but its implications will echo in every election. Stay engaged, stay informed, and remember, your vote matters more than ever.